Hello, all you positive heads. Welcome to a very special episode dedicated to none other than you, the HeAds themselves. I am your HeAd enthusiast and hostess for the day, Alexa Hauser. I have been blessed to have the experience of helping out with Positive Head social media for the better part of a year. And through my digital interactions, I began to realize, as did Brandon, that we have some incredible beings listening to the show who are taking the information that Brandon puts out through the podcast and using it to transform their lives and create wonderful things. You listeners are all a huge, huge part of the life force that propels this show forward through time and space, and we think it's time to bring forth some of you beautiful reflections and delve a little deeper into this collection of energy that is the Positive Head community. So as we shine the spotlight on our listeners, what we'll have them do is share their stories of how they attracted Positive Head into their life, the transformation it's facilitated for them, and what they're focused on creating now that they're in a more positive headspace. Hello, all you positive heads. On this HeAd Posse episode, our guest is Positive Head listener Marabella Muncey. Marabella is a Yogi, EFT practitioner, a nationally certified hypnotherapist, and a crystal enthusiast. She's on the planet to help others raise their vibration by releasing fears and all energies that are not useful. Her intention is to guide others in shifting to becoming more intuitive, self-accepting, and loving. Her desire is to help you so you can take that energy and help someone else. Marabella sees the vision of changing the doom and gloom narrative and raising the vibration of the planet, restoring it to the natural state of love. Hi, Marabella. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you, Alexa.
Yeah.
I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so happy you could be here too. I'm excited to, dig into your story, and we've connected a little bit offline, and, you have such a sweet energy, and I'm really excited for you to share it with everyone. So, as we always... Yeah, absolutely. So as we always like to do, would love if you could just start at the beginning and just kind of give us an insight into what your early life was like, maybe how you grew up and what your path has been like to this point now.
Yeah. So I was a very sensitive child growing up. I am biracial, and so I never really felt like I fit in anywhere. That was mostly my life until now. I feel comfortable in my own skin. I was also clairaudient, but I was afraid of that. So I really pushed that away, as far away as I could. And it wasn't until recently that I, through the use of crystals, came back to that, or even realized that's what it was. Mm-hmm. I always thought, I must be crazy. I have to stop doing this. Because I would hear things and answers would come to me and I would be like, no, this can't be. And then I was raised pretty much new age by my mom. But then after my first marriage, he was a super strong Christian and very judgmental. And so a lot of my natural abilities and who I was very stifled. And then I found yoga, and that freed me. So it gave me it wasn't like I was learning something new. I felt like I was coming back to myself, if that makes sense. And I just, through doing the yoga, but also learning it at a deeper level. I took a very intensive yoga teacher training in 2009 in Rockland, California. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm home. This is so me. Everything that I learned in that just resonated with me so deeply on such a deep level. Yeah. And from there, I learned the EFT tapping. And I came to that because I had some relationship issues that I couldn't, pray away. I couldn't release from the yoga. It was just this anxiety that was within me. And I think just throughout my life, I had anxiety anyway. And the yoga kind of released it for a little while and helped me to deepen my spirituality. But the tapping really freed me. And then I wanted to be an EFT practitioner. And my mentor, she urged me to just, instead of going to college and learning, becoming, a master, like oh gosh, I'm getting stuck. Instead of having all the degrees, to just go to hypnotherapy class and get certified in that, because it deals with the subconscious. So I did that, and the past life regression was the most healing for me of any therapy. And so now I am embracing that. And the hypnotherapy brought me back to my natural intuition and brought out, I'm able to speak with guides and help others connect to their guides as well. And the EFT tapping really helped me tap into my intuition. And it's just opened up a huge new world for me. And each time I work with a client, I just feel this amazing energy. I feel freer, helping them become freer in their own physicality, in their own bodies.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. It sounds like you were led to I feel like what you're illustrating too is how, and I've been feeling this recently, it's like the tools that we are guided to heal ourselves are often the things that are meant for us to learn and share with others. Not everything maybe, but like a lot of the time it
right.
It goes back to like your triggers are your treasures, the things that you're struggling with, you learn to heal those. And then that becomes part of your purpose, right? Like in helping others do the same.
Exactly. Yeah. And each time I work with somebody, it goes deeper and deeper. And so it could be a person like you or I who is already on their path, and I connect with them, or it can be somebody brand new who's never stepped into this kind of world before. Yeah. And so a lot of times when I work with people that are already on their path, it's just I'm freeing something in them to help them come back to that. I worked with a man who used to be an Indian shaman, and just through life he forgot. And when he came came in to see me, I mean, people find me randomly. I don't know how that works, but he came in, and I just pointed him back through the session. It wasn't me. It's never really me doing it. It's the energies working through me. It's God, or, whatever the higher power working through me. And what he came in for is not what his soul truly needed. It was to come back to his roots. And so that's what his takeaway was, to get back into his music and get back into the earth. And it was just, I was watching the process unfold, and I was stunned, because I thought, I'm going to treat this. I'm going to help him with this. But in reality, it was like a bigger picture. So it's just so amazing.
I love how that happens. I know exactly what you're talking about, because that happens with me sometimes in my sessions where people come. And I think it all goes back to kind of like the path of least resistance, right? It's like that person, maybe if they knew on a deeper level that like what they were really coming in for was what they were really coming in for, they actually wouldn't come, because maybe it's like too frightening or too real or something. So it's interesting how, our minds can actually like play tricks on us in a good way. It's like we can be deceived into, I don't want to use deceived, but, we can be persuaded to go towards something that maybe we would feel too scared to go towards if we knew where we were really going. You know what I mean?
Oh, right. Yeah. And a lot of times we just don't see it. We don't see that. And then, I mean, like the beautiful thing about EFT is it gives you a tool that you can use yourself in the moment to let go of anxiety, stress, anything you're going through. It works so well. But then if you go to see a practitioner, for like a tapping tune-up, that's what I like to call it. You get deeper, 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 because the tapping just like an onion, it's unfolding, and you get to right that root right to the center of it.
Yes, it's so cool. Like all of these different ways of essentially learning it, like that's what I've been realizing too. It's like all these different modalities. It's really, you're just getting clearer and clearer on like who you are and why you are the way you are. Because I don't know if you find this, but I really do find this is that like half of the healing sometimes comes just from connecting those dots, like when you're asking somebody about what their issue is and you're getting a little more info sometimes about like what their family was like or what their childhood was like or whatever, and you're connecting patterns. It's like sometimes that alone can like really snap someone out of something. I mean, the tapping itself is so healing. Like I tap all the time on myself,
right?
But it's really interesting how that works. Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, no, I was just agreeing with you.
Oh,
yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
And with hypnotherapy, it's interesting because I've been having a lot of hypnotherapists like pop up in my world. One was on the show several weeks ago, and I feel like it's calling to me. But I have this thing where I like don't believe that I could be hypnotized. I've never tried. Yeah. It's not like anyone has tried, but what's your perspective on that?
Yes. So everyone says that. So when I was learning hypnotherapy, I would practice on my husband, and he said, I can't be hypnotized. And he really wants to have that control. We all want to have that control. We don't want to like have somebody take over our body and just make us do like a puppet on the stage, like you see on TV.
Right.
So every time we would go on vacation, he would get sick. And so I said, I was practicing, I think, the inner guide hypnosis. And I said, it's okay. Just relax. And he barely kept his eyes closed, but he has not gotten sick on a vacation in a very, very long time.
Wow.
So what I say it's like is, when you're watching TV, you're watching something that you're really engrossed in, and somebody comes in the door and comes home, they're there, but you're so engrossed in the show that you're totally aware of what's going on in the show. You're in two places at the same time. That's hypnosis. And all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. So I can't make you like a bark like a dog, cluck like a chicken, unless you want to. If that's something that you do in your normal life, then during hypnosis, you'll do it.
Right.
If you would never do it, then you won't. And during the hypnosis, I don't take you so deep that you fall asleep. If you did fall asleep, it would be okay. But it's pretty interactive with me a lot of the time, or sometimes I do script work, but you're in full control and it's all you. I'm just your guide. It's all you doing it.
That's a really, thank you for describing it in that way, because that helps me understand exactly what it is. It's like sometimes even I get into one of those states when I'm just like walking down the street. I don't know why, but I want to like focus on something, and it's like I'm becoming really aware of what's around. But I can't stop focusing on this thing because it feels good to focus on it. And it's nothing in particular. It's like a space and time. It's really weird. But that helps me understand more. So, and I think I think you're hitting on it too. It's like, no one really wants to lose control. Like no one really that's a fear. And so I feel like that is why a lot of us are like, I can't be hypnotized because I'm always in control. But that's a good way to describe it. Okay. That helps me understand. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. And so say you come to me and, you're dealing with an issue. What happens is that I do an induction, and it's a relaxation process, and it's just to get past your conscious mind. Our subconscious controls everything that we do, because from ages 0 to 6, we were programmed pretty much from our parents, teachers, friends. And so all the induction does is relax you to be able to get to your subconscious mind. And then it's kind of like a discussion, and then it's a releasing, and then it's an offering of suggestions as to how you want to become or feel. And so it's a gentle process, and you feel amazing after. It's like doing a meditation, basically. It's amazing.
It sounds it.
Yeah.
It's something I'm going to look into more for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so fun to explore all these tools and see which one resonates with you the most, and I feel like each one of us is called to different things at different times. And hypnotherapy has been coming up a lot. I'm curious, as well, Marabella, how did you end up finding Positive HeAd?
I used to listen to a podcast called Psychic Teachers.
Yeah.
And I used to be shy about it. And I didn't tell other people that I listened to it because I have such like Christians on one side, New Age on the other. I hate labels, by the way. It's just a way to describe kind of what I was going through. And so I would listen. And I loved it so much. And then one of the hosts was on Positive HeAds, and I think Brandon was on their show. Yeah. And I was like, all in. I just was like, this is my home. Here I am. And I was like, I can't wait to be on the show. I was like so scared. And when it just happened with you, I was like, what? Be on the show? Okay, let's do it. But it resonated with me so deeply. And it took me to another level of feeling inspired, enlightened. My vibration is so much higher now.
Yeah. Mine too. That's awesome. I remember when Brandon was on Psychic Teachers. I remember that convergence for sure. I don't remember how long ago that was, but it was a little while ago. I remember, it's funny because I remember I think I found Brandon like personally through, he was on another podcast, but the podcast was like, it wasn't even a big podcast, I don't think, or maybe it just wasn't really in our realm. But I just remember like hearing him on there, and his voice is just so like, his energy was just so like intense, like in the best way. Yeah. And so it's so cool to like, I love asking everyone that question because I just love like seeing where all the pieces come from, how like we've all been kind of attracted from all different areas, and the path of least resistance again. And it's cool. It's cool to think about.
Yeah.
Cool. So how can, just because we're talking about everything you're working on now, if people are interested in doing EFT with you or hypnotherapy or any of your services, how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am currently working on a YouTube channel, working on content for that. So that'll be one way soon, but instant message or Facebook or Instagram, just under Marabella Muncey.
Marabella Muncey. Cool. And we'll put some of those links in the show notes, so it'll make it easier. Awesome. And so I ask everyone this question, and I love this question because we all come from such different, we all have such different things at like the top of our mind, at the top of our hearts. So what is one thing that you think is really important for every Positive HeAd listener to know or understand as they continue on their own journey?
Yeah, I think it's to love and accept yourself. I really do. Like, I got that from the tapping, but that's really key. A lot of, so with the people that are maybe not awakened, that is the key. That is at their core, loving it and accepting themselves. And for all of us too. But, I really think that's it. Because once you can do that, like just as you are too. I mean, yes, maybe we want to lose weight or we want to do this, but just accepting yourself right where you are, forgiving yourself, love, forgiveness. Yes. Definitely. Yeah.
I mean, absolutely. I echo that as well. I actually kind of realized this week in my own life how so many of these experiences where I've experienced like lack, or I've experienced lack of not just lack monetarily, like lack of what I wanted in general, whether it's like a certain type of feeling, a certain type of experience, a certain type of connection. I finally had this realization this week that because I didn't truly love or forgive myself for anything that, for any of the mistakes in my past, because a lot of us like will tend to hold on to these things that we've done and then just keep punishing ourselves for years and years and years. Yes. And literally you realize, like, I kept having this realization. I was like, it's been X amount of years. Like, is that enough? And it's like, and part of me was like, no, you could go a couple more. And I was like, no, like that is crazy. That is totally insane. Like, so then is it going to be enough? Like, but regardless. So I had this realization that because I didn't truly feel worthy, because I hadn't actually forgiven myself, even though I said like, oh yeah, moving on, I haven't actually forgiven myself. That was causing me to push away the things that I actually wanted because I literally didn't feel like I deserved them. So I couldn't even see that I'm sitting here trying to figure out how to get the things I want, not even seeing that they've been coming to me the whole time, but I've been actually been pushing them away because every time they show up, a part of me is like, you don't deserve that. And so I get uncomfortable and I push away from it. And I hadn't even been conscious that I was doing that. And so it's really, just to echo what you're saying, you know, I mean, it's not that forgiving yourself is necessarily so easy or loving yourself is so easy just based on how we've been programmed to live. However, there are so many tools and processes available to us to start working towards that, to just start working towards the ability to do that. And, and once we really can, it's like, and the other thing I want to say that I realized too is that actually loving yourself is like scary. It's really scary.
Yeah.
It's because it makes you feel vulnerable. You know, it makes you feel like, oh no, if it's that feeling we have as humans that the other shoe's going to drop, right? If I actually think that everything's okay, well, then I'm not being prepared for what might happen. And so it feels vulnerable to actually love yourself. And that's just where I am in the stage, but I'm in the process. But anyway, that is why I agree. It is the most important thing, because that's how you learn to receive not only love, but all the things you've been asking for.
Right. And it can be it can be a choice, and it can be very like a physical thing. Like, I love myself, so I am eating the right foods.
Yeah.
You know, I'm allowing myself to think positive thoughts. I used to think this way about myself, but I am changing. It's kind of like everything you do to like a higher level, to a higher standard. And it is scary. And there is a part of us that wants to hold on to that. Like, if we've done something wrong, but just always knowing, because that's how I got connected with you. I feel like, is I was going through the same thing at the same time with not forgiving myself and realizing that, oh my gosh, I'm limiting myself because I don't think I deserve this. There's something in me that feels not worthy. And that's at the core of when people come in for hypnotherapy or any sort of service, that is at the core of it all, is not feeling worthy. We don't feel worthy. But just knowing that if you look at the world and you look at it, somehow something created this, something bigger than us. And that being that energy, God, whatever you want to call it, has already forgiven us. Like, I got a download about that, has already forgiven us, always loves us, wants us to love ourselves. And it's true. We kind of have to do a little bit of work to get to that point. And all of the things that we teach, you know, the meditation, the tapping, hypnotherapy, all of that really helps with that. Because you can actually go back to the point of where you took on that idea, like where you began to wear that. And it can also be it might be something generational, you know, from your mom, your dad. Your dad's carrying this around, so you automatically are wearing it too. So yeah, definitely.
And to that point, on top of it just being passed down generationally, it can also be a way that we bond, right, with our family. So if our dad has a certain thing we're carrying around and we want to bond with our dad, we will start carrying that around too, and then we'll forget that that's why we're carrying it around, even after we grow up and we're not living with our dad anymore and we're whatever, and we sit and we're like, oh, I have the same issue. You don't even remember that you just started picking it up because that's what your dad did, and it felt good to be where he was, even though it wasn't a happy place maybe, or it wasn't the lightest of places. So I think that's a really interesting thing to consider as well.
That is a really, really good point. And I've seen that in my office, and I've seen it go where when we are ready to face this, you can actually go into hypnotherapy and change the memory. And so you actually have two parallel side-by-side memories, and you get to choose which one you're going to go with. And it's funny because sometimes that'll shift you and it shifts the other person a little bit too. Yeah. But just looking at it with our own eyes, just, you know, without just thinking about changing and being different from your family is very, very, very scary.
Yeah.
Like, because people are afraid if I change, am I going to lose my connection with them?
Yeah.
They don't want to do that. So
Exactly.
yeah, but anything is possible, and it is possible to release that and change and still stay connected with your family, and on a deeper level with more understanding.
Yes. And, I was just getting this image as you were talking about that of, sometimes, as we just said, like let's say it's shame, right? The shame is just passed down, right? Generation to generation. So even if you were carrying shame in order to stay connected to your dad, let's keep that example. And then you realize, I don't want this isn't even mine. I just picked it up to connect. I want to shift this. And then you have that fear of, oh no, will I still connect with him? Well, I feel like the coolest thing to think about is, well, what if you actually deciding to shift that shame then allows your dad, for example, to release that because he's holding on to it to connect with you and to carry on you know what I mean? It's like everything that we do to ourselves, whoever is connected to us, it allows them to shift out of the thing that they've been held into. It's almost like, yeah, it's like they've been locked into this thing, and because we're locked into it with them, we hold it in place even more. But if we can break away and dissolve that, then it kind of frees it up for them as well to shift and change.
You said that so perfectly. Yes. Good job.
Thank you.
That's exactly it.
Yeah. So never underestimate like the power of you shifting yourself and what that could actually be doing for the person that maybe you're afraid to lose. Maybe you could actually be freeing them too, and
yes. And that is like my mission. You said it so beautifully, like to change the planet, because ultimately my goal is to shift out of the old narrative, the doom and gloom, we're all going to die, blah, blah, blah. And we can make it a new narrative. Like we can totally change the planet with this thought.
Totally. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. I mean, and I was just talking about this as well. Like in general, us feeling safe to, just in general, us feeling safe to step forward into what we feel called to do and how we feel called to show up in the world, even though that might ruffle some feathers or rub some people the wrong way. Realizing that like, you don't want to stay in a way of being that you don't want to stay in a way of being that doesn't actually feel genuine to you and doesn't feel good to you just because it might rub some people the wrong way if you step out of that. And in fact, could it possibly be that people need to be rubbed the wrong way in order for them to learn what they need to learn? Like people need to get riled up sometimes, or people's lives need to kind of like shake around them in order for them to actually learn what they need to learn as a human. And so can we look at it as like, again, just going back to we're actually doing people a service, even when we shake things up for people, even when we irritate people, even when people get pissed off, it's like, that's their journey. Like that is their journey. It has something to do with you, but it has nothing to do with your journey. And you need to feel safe to express how you want to, because it's your life. These other people are not living your life. You are living your life,
Right. I really, really like that. That's so true. Yeah. And then it's just kind of like the image that came to my mind is a fire, right? After the fire, beautiful blooms come, it's beautiful green grass, flowers. It's gorgeous. So
yes, things need to be
more beautiful than it was before. So
yes, sometimes things need to be dissolved.
I totally agree.
Yeah, some things need to be broken down in order to be rebuilt stronger.
Right.
And absolutely, I love that. I love the image of fire. I know that. Have you ever done breath work? Have you ever tried like rebirthing? Have you heard of that?
Oh, I've done a little bit of breath work through yoga and yoga breathing and things like that, but I don't think I have.
You should check out rebirthing. It's a process of, I've done it like 3 times and it's been incredibly powerful for me every time. But it's called rebirthing because the guy, I think the guy who started it, his name's Leonard Cohen. Is that right? I don't know. Leonard, I think. Anyway, he started this process where, essentially you're breathing very quickly. It's not fire breathing. It's not like that, but you're laying down and you're breathing deep and quickly, very like, oh, it's connected breathing. It's called connected breathing. You never stop. You just keep going from one to the other, in, out, in, out. And the reason he calls it rebirthing is because through this, he actually was able to re-experience his birth like quantumly and heal his birth trauma. And that actually happened to me on the second time that I did it. I like started to see what was going on in the room of my birth. I saw all this kind of trauma happening. Like there was all this stuff that happened around my birth, and I cried, and like it was so beautiful and healing. But wow, why was I bringing this up?
Wow.
I don't know. Maybe you just needed.
Yeah.
Oh, he believes in. Sorry, that's what it was. He has retreat centers where he teaches people how to do this, and a big part of his process is the fire. Every single night, the fire. He believes that if you go sit out by the fire, it just and just watch it, just sit by it and watch it. It just actually purifies your energy, cleanses you every day, and he feels like it's such an important part of being a human and shifting in this way. So. Interesting.
Oh, thank you. I actually did need to hear that. I've been really attracted to sitting by the fire lately, and even by myself. Yes. And it's just a new thing for me. I mean, I've always enjoyed a fire, but I've always been a little bit afraid of fire, and I've been so drawn to it lately. So thank you. I needed to hear
welcome. That. Like, that's cool.
We have the ability to have fires at our place, and never before this year have I been so drawn to it.
Wow. I wonder if that was like a past life thing for you too, like the fear of the fire.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So interesting.
It really is. It really is. That's so cool. Cool. Well, so let's see here. Do you, Marabella, have anything before? Well, let me ask you this. So we're coming close to the end, and I have a question that I always ask. But before that, is there anything that you feel called to share personally? Like anything you feel called to share before we start wrapping things up? Anything you want to say?
Well, I don't know. Oh, sorry.
You're
my
fine.
Dog.
All
my
good.
son just walked through the room, and my dog's not working. Okay. So I didn't know if you wanted to talk about Doreen Virtue, or
sure.
If you felt like that. Okay. So on another podcast, you were talking with Nike about Doreen Virtue, and that is she's interesting in my life in the way that, when I learned about her, I was feeling kind of, like I told you about the psychic teachers and how I would kind of listen in secret.
Yeah.
I was kind of like that with her, because I felt like, just from the past, from when I was in my marriage and he was such a strong, domineering Christian, and how I felt like, oh, this might be not a good thing. Well, anyway, I started, after my yoga training, I started to she would just appear to me. And I bought a book by her called Healing with the Fairies. And I loved it. And it was great. And then she just had some other recommendations. I didn't really follow her strongly, but some of the things that she said, I really resonated with. And then she became a Christian, and she told everyone to burn her books, everything. Yeah. And I think it left people like, what? How can you say this? How can you desert us? How can you leave us? And then for me, I was open now. I'm open with using cards and things. I use them in a very therapeutic way. I help them. Like if somebody wants to use the cards and they don't want to do hypnotherapy and they don't want to do tapping, I have the cards as a resource, and I use them in my own way. My hypnotherapy teacher taught me how to do all these crazy, wonderful things. Just hypnotherapy and tapping. So my current husband was like, oh, we're going to get cursed if we use the cards. And I was like, who told you that? Who gave you that information? And he could tell me. So anyway, he bought me a fairy deck to go with the, Josephine Wall, or not Josephine Wall. Sorry. Oops. Gosh.
Doreen.
I'm so excited to talk that all the words aren't coming out. Okay. Anyway, Doreen Virtue. And he bought me the card deck. And just about that time, I found out that she went to being Christian. And people have very strong opinions about it. And I get both sides of it. I understand that for her, she's probably doing what her soul is telling her to do. She has a relationship with Jesus. She's evolving in her own way. Mm-hmm. And I know for others, they leave the Christian faith and they evolve in their own way. But she was a leader and a teacher, and she kind of dumped everybody to go up. Mm-hmm. And now we have these resources, and we're supposed to like burn the book and burn the cards. And so it's confusing. It's about some confusion to people.
Definitely.
So I just feel strongly about it because I kind of found her towards my journey of becoming more new age again. And now she's going the other direction. It's kind of like she and I aren't on the same page anymore. And it's okay.
Yeah. Well, you know what you were just illuminating for me a bit is that like Doreen Virtue from what I know of her story, she's been on the path, on this spiritual path. I mean, ever since like childhood. I think she was speaking with angels. I mean, it was like, this is her whole life. She's been in this world. And so just the way that, like, for example, with me, like the majority of my life was not in this world, not just because I didn't know anyone who was psychic or intuitive. I wanted to, I was interested in it, but it wasn't like my world. I was very much in just like the 3D world. And, you know, only in the past few years have I started on this path and really kind of come to this side of things. So, or integrated this into my life. So it's interesting to think about, you know, while some of us are going from here to here, right? Like we're going from this side to this side. Maybe she's going from this side to this side because you have to kind of get that contrast and experience something that, you know, it's kind of like being an explorer, and like you have to kind of journey to the other end of the earth to like really understand what life is about and what feels right and what doesn't. And while I do agree, it's a little jarring, and that's why I've been asking people about it, because it's really interesting that, you know, I have a ton of her card decks. I love Doreen Virtue's decks. They've been like such a big part of my life. And it's very interesting that all of a sudden she's denouncing them and saying like, no, this was not created in the highest good. Like, actually, it was like, I don't even know if she said it was like the devil that worked through her, but she kind of was alluding to like, it was like low vibrational energies that were helping create this, when for me, it doesn't feel that way at all. It feels so high vibe and positive and beautiful.
Feel that way.
Yeah. So it makes you wonder, you're like, what's happening with her that she's actually feeling that, or who is she communicating with now? But regardless, you know, as you were speaking, it was kind of illuminating for me that like sometimes we all have to go the other way. Like sometimes we all have to go to the other side, even if it's not quote unquote. And I think it's hard for us as humans to understand because we're so used to seeing everything as like right or wrong, like light or dark. So we're like, but you were on the light side and now it feels like you're going back the other way or something like that. But it's like, But I think what you're so beautifully expressing in a way is that just because someone goes the other way, it doesn't mean anything's wrong or that like they've chosen the dark side or anything like that. Maybe it just means that's what their soul needs right now. Their soul needs to experience a contrast in order to fulfill their purpose. You know, this is all maybe this is, and I keep getting the intuition that this is actually, this specific instance is helping people question their own faith and question what they want to believe, because even Doreen Virtue is someone who maybe some people are putting the power outside of themselves into her and into the cards, for example, rather than listening to themselves. And maybe this is something that's happening in order to have people question, well, what do I want to believe? For example, about the cards, like the cards feel good. Yet the person who created the cards is saying they weren't created from good. It's like, well, what do you want to believe? Do you want to, I'm still using the cards. I don't care what she says. Like, I like them. So, you know,
and it's beautiful.
It's about kind of figuring out whose authority are you going to listen to? Someone else's or your own, you know?
I agree 100%. We're all evolving and she's evolving. We all are. And so why not, in the space that she created the cards, she created them. They're beautiful. I love them too. And why not use them? I mean, she may not be in that same space, but isn't it true that there is no time? And once you get off the earth, everything is timeless. So, I mean, it doesn't matter, I feel like.
Totally. Yeah. And I think, it's very much about, tuning into what you want to do. This message keeps coming through all day to day. It's like, what do you want to believe? What do you want to align with? What do you want to choose? Coming back to choices. Which choice do you want to make about your own beliefs, right? Beliefs about yourself, beliefs about others, beliefs about the universe. And then coming back to that, like, everyone is on their own journey. And just because someone else is choosing something, that doesn't mean that you have to choose it, or that what you're choosing is wrong or anything like that. It means that's their path. And this is and whatever you feel drawn to is your path. And I think that is it feels like that's a big thing we're learning collectively right now. We're learning about following our individual path, and knowing that there is no like right or wrong. There is what's best for us in the moment, and only we can know that, because only we can tune into ourselves, right? So
exactly, intuition. It goes back to finding that intuition for ourselves.
Yeah,
we're all just people, so we're all doing the best that we can, and it's kind of scary if we're following somebody so closely and they're just a human. Yeah. We need to have our own intuition to follow our own path.
Yes. So that's a good way to put it.
Just tuning into ourselves, and we have the ability to get the answers for ourselves.
Yeah.
That's how I feel.
That's a good way to put it. And it makes me also think kind of about like astrology and stuff like that, where people are... And I love that stuff too. I mean, there's someone I follow on Instagram. Her name's Alex Miles, and she's you know her? She's always Alex Miles. I don't know who she is, but she's always posting stuff about like what's happening planetarily. She'll be like, there's a solar storm happening and this is what you may be feeling. And I was like catching myself get addicted to her post, because I would be feeling some sort of way. And then I'd be like checking her Instagram and refreshing 5 times, making sure she didn't post something new. And I finally had to stop myself and be like, girl, like, what are you doing? You're like checking to make like you want there to be something here saying that something is going on so that you can have justification for the way that you feel. Like, look at how I'm putting the power outside of myself in the scenario, saying, Alex Miles, tell me what's happening so I can feel better or worse or whatever. And I think this happens a lot with astrology, and I'm not saying astrology isn't legit and it's not a beautiful tool and it's not something that we can use. However, I think a lot of us can fall into this sort of trap of kind of, just like the Mercury retrograde thing, blaming everything on the planets and really putting the power outside when it's really within. You can choose what you want to believe.
Yeah, I agree. I'm guilty. I've been saying it's Mercury retrograde because it is right now. I said that like 5 times yesterday, but really, tuning into yourself, finding the answers for yourself instead of looking outside is a more secure way. But I mean, it takes a second to get to that point where you trust. There's always the trust.
Yeah.
But it's learning to trust. It's like learning to trust and going with it and just doing it.
Yeah, you got to build up the trust. The more you trust, the easier it is to trust, kind of, the more you kind of put your faith in yourself, the more you realize that you can hear yourself, but you got to kind of do it before you start to realize that you can really do it. That makes sense. You got to just do it. Awesome. Well, yeah, I think that's great insight. I think that was all like a very important message that just came out there for everyone. So final question is, and this is just a fun one. Do you have any fun like stories of synchronicity or manifestation or anything like that you feel like inspired to share?
Oh yeah, this is fun. Definitely. Since listening to Positive Heads. I have a friend who passed away. He won't mind me using his name. His name's Chris Jameson. And when he passed away, I didn't find out for a couple of months. I just realized that he wasn't checking my Instagram and things. Thankfully, we had a really great conversation before he passed away. And the day that I found out, I checked my Instagram. I checked to see what was going on with him because I hadn't heard from him. And I realized that he had passed away, crying. It was horrible. And that day I happened to have a million things going on. So when I got out of the shower, I felt like he was talking to me. And I got a feeling of feeling so energetic and so great. Like having conversations with you, Alexa, just like really, really energized and just so, and he was telling me personal things, things that how could anyone know? And I was tuning in, I was feeling good. I was running my errands, and then I got to Walgreens parking lot and I was like, wait a minute, I'm feeling really good. And you're not here. Is this right? Shouldn't I be sad? And am I really talking to you? Are you really talking to me in my head? I said, if you're talking to me, please give me a sign. And he made a joke. He's like, I'm talking to you in your head. What more do you want?
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, that's fine. And so I went on about my day. And my friend who's a medium called and she said, some guy is talking to me. Do you know someone named Chris? And I'm like, yes,
wow.
He just passed away. And she gave me some messages and it was definitely him.
Wow.
And so when I got home later in the evening, my husband came home with a big box of things saying his client, his patient called and wanted him to meet him back at the office. My husband had left to come home. He had to turn around and go back. And randomly, his patient had a big box full of Jameson memorabilia, paraphernalia, or whatever.
God.
Great, and we don't drink whiskey, but a great big huge bottle of Jameson whiskey, a Jameson hoodie, 2 Jameson shot glasses, 2 Jameson coffee mugs, a towel, all this Jameson stuff. I told my husband what happened. He said, this cannot just be a coincidence. It was too far-fetched to be just a coincidence. So I took it as this was real. This was real. I knew it was real. I felt like
I don't know. Okay. This is really wild. So I don't know why, but I feel like I do know why, but okay, let me just tell you. So I feel like there's another synchronicity added onto this. So
what?
Okay, I was just talking to Ambrosia, my podcast co-host, on the phone. I was telling her about how a few weeks ago, somebody that was supposed to do this segment with me, they rescheduled their interview at the last minute. And so I didn't have anybody. And I got the intuition, well, you should just do it. I should just do it on my own. And I was like, well, what am I going to do? And it was like, do a tap. Because I do EFT. So I did I just did a tap. And it was on, I don't know what it was on, Speaking Your Truth or something like that, maybe. But anyway, after that, I just didn't think anything of it. And then 5 days later or something, I got a EFT session booked on my website. And I got an email right after that, and it was from someone named Jameson. And he said, and hi, Jameson, if you're listening, don't worry, I'm not sharing any of your details or anything, but this is just for the point that your name is Jameson. And he, and so then we just had our tapping session a couple of days ago, and it was this very deeply connected, I really felt like he was called in. It felt very energetically right. And I just felt very connected to him, and I followed up with him, and I was just talking to him yesterday. And then he sent me a song today, and it was the most beautiful song. And anyway, it was just his name. I was thinking to myself, wow, that's a beautiful name. Jameson. I really don't hear that name very much. Jameson. And I was just talking about it right before we got on here, Jameson. And it's just really wild.
Are you serious?
Yeah. I really feel like that was in part for you. That's really wild.
Oh my gosh. Well, I did say I'm going to mention you on this podcast, and he said, it's okay. Like,
Wow.
I got the feeling that, whoa, I just have chill goosebumps all over now.
That's so cool.
And then for the next few days, I felt that amazing vibe. And even like the store clerk, her name, like, she helped me to get something for my son. I went to Macy's and she helped me pick out something for my son. And it was like this crazy, it turned out to be, through these weird chains of events, it turned out to be this crazy deal. I got a crazy deal on a tracksuit for my son. And her name was, it was just,
her name was what?
Chris Jameson. Her name was Chris and his name was Chris Jameson.
Yes.
So when I saw her name, I was like, oh my gosh, it was another gift from him.
Yes. Wow. I love this. That's such a beautiful story. And it's so awesome too, that like your friend called and, said he was there. 'Cause I think about that sometimes too. I'm like, it's so cool when you actually know, I've had that actually happen before too, where like through someone I know, like the message is delivered in that way. And it's just such beautiful validation. And that's such an amazing story. Thank you for sharing that. And I feel like he's really excited that you are doing this or something, because it feels very much like that energy is surrounding this recording. So
I feel it, especially when you told me the story that you just told me about your client.
Yeah. I'm also going to share this song with you because I keep feeling like
Thank you.
Maybe the song is, I don't know. I feel like I'm supposed to share the song with you. And Jameson that I know, if you're listening, hi. Thank you for sharing.
Jameson. Thank you.
Well, Marabella, this has been so awesome. Thank you so much for being on the show and sharing all of your light and all of your wisdom. And everyone listening, if you want to connect with Marabella, we'll put her links in the show notes. You can click there. And thank you so much.
Great. Thank you so much, Alexa.
Of course. Have a beautiful day.
Thank you. You too.
That's it for this week's episode. If you're a listener with a story to share and are interested in being featured on a future episode of this special series, you can email me at alexa@positivehead.com. Otherwise, tune in next Friday for another HeAd Posse episode. And until then, as Brandon always says, journey well.